I don't know why I like filming from this angle, but it's just working for right now. I can get really comfortable. I'll figure something else out later as this channel develops and builds and goes on or whatever. But right now, this is going to work for today. So I wanted to talk about my relationship with my father and how it has affected my romantic relationships, because that always is the case. A daughter always ends up attracting her father, and a son always ends up attracting his mother. Anyway, so let me explain how I attract my father, and how I'm just not with it. Why I say that I'm not the type of person that can be in a really committed relationship, because I just don't like that type of attention. Somebody focusing all of that on me. I say that because my dad grew up without his mother in his life. So, in my opinion, that made him very bitter towards women. Even though it wasn't her fault. A kid doesn't understand that. All a kid knows is that his mom's not in his life. Okay, also, he has brothers and sisters that are not by his father. So, and my dad lived with his father, my grandfather. So, my dad pretty much grew up the same way I did, as far as like a military kind of lifestyle. He wasn't around his family, and he just wasn't around anybody that he was related to. So my dad basically grew up without a family. So he said to himself that whenever he has a family, he's going to do the best that he can to make it a solid, stable family. And I'll admit, you know what I mean, for the first maybe 10 years of my life, my dad was excellent. My dad was like Superman. My dad was like super dad, truth be told. He was the best man I've ever known, the best man I could have ever loved, the best man that could have ever loved me. But I don't know, at a certain point in his life, I don't know, his life turned in a direction that was really dark. And because his life was in a place that was dark, it was like a dark cloud in our family, you know what I mean? And he took to being very, very controlling of everybody in the family. And because he wasn't like that when we first were together, like for the first 10 years of my life, since he wasn't like that, he was very open, and I was allowed to be who I wanted to be. So when he turned into a controlling person, I didn't understand that. I didn't operate or function with that, because I've only known being who I wanted to be. So my dad became physically abusive. His controlling ways went from being mean to being physically abusive, and like, he has open hands slapped me in my face before, and I mean uncalled for ridiculous reasons, just because I would not let him control me. I could tell you a story. The reason why he slapped me in my face, I'll tell you what happened. He didn't like my handwriting, okay? Let's start with the controlling issue. He didn't like my handwriting, and he told me to do my handwriting, he told me to do my homework, and that he was going to check my homework, and to not write it in my natural handwriting, but to write it in cursive, because he used to always try to get me to write in cursive. I was a little kid. Don't know fucking kids write cursive. Anyways, how you going to tell me to not write in my natural handwriting, but to write... How you gonna tell me to not write my natural handwriting? You know what I mean? There you go. So I'm sorry. I was about 14 when that happened. I was not with that. You're not going to tell me to not write in my natural handwriting. I wrote in my natural handwriting, and I handed him my homework. And he looked at me with this fire in his eyes and smacked the fuck out of me. And I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget how I know for a fact that because I didn't do what he wanted me to do is why I got smacked. But I got over it. You understand what I'm saying? And it made me a very strong person. It made me very strong. But it also made me very angry. Because for about another couple of months, maybe 6 months after he began putting his hands on me like that, he was doing it very often. So, my parents had split custody. And, he sent me to go live with my mom because he couldn't control me. And he was getting very angry and kept beating me. So he sent me to my mom so he wouldn't beat me anymore. But what that did was, he still tried to control me from where he was living. He was still calling me every day. Calling my mom every day, trying to get the report on me, where I'm at, what I'm doing, who I'm with, you know what I mean? And I was not with that. So at 15 years old, I cut my dad off, and I was very angry at men for a very, very, very long time. I abused men because of the way that my dad treated me. Like, he went from being my savior to being the monster that tried to ruin my life. So, you know, I really had a lot of anger towards men because of that. And I have a skewed perception of men. I feel like every man is going to get to a point where he's going to love me, and then turn on me and try to control me and start beating me. So, I mean, it comes from that happening to me in my life, that I really believe that will happen to me in the future. And that's really why I'm scared to be in a strong, committed relationship with anybody, because I'm not going to allow that to happen again. So, yeah, there we go. Daddy issues, honey. She has daddy issues, but they haven't turned out in the way that most people turned out. I started beating niggas, honey. It's like, no, that's not cute. Yes, I have daddy issues, and I was abusive. I was very abusive. I'll talk about that later, because my anger turned me into a very, very, very abusive person, verbally, physically, and it's not cute. It wasn't cute, and I'm not going to sit here and laugh about it. I laugh because I'm ashamed of who I am, really. So I laugh to kind of like, I'm not ashamed of who I am, but I'm ashamed of some of the things that I've done. So the things that I've done that I'm ashamed about, I laugh about it. You know what I mean? Kind of like, just to, you know, take the edge off of it. To try not to beat myself up about it. Because people are going to beat me up about everything I do anyway. But yeah. Alright, so I'll talk to you later.